one of the differences is that,
Am I
that
staying
last
here or
D
going?
flat, stay here,
Okay, I'm
that
staying here.
last D flat that she sings, the penultimate note, which has, that the lowered second,
Yeah.
is not in the selections doubling, maybe because they're afraid that if the soprano doesn't do it quite right, that it won't be accurate, you know?
Yeah.
It is in the double. And that, I want to talk about that flat second, because you and I had a correspondence about a year ago where somebody wrote that most of the pieces in Fiddler are in major key, and I wrote nonsense, and you wrote me back, it's about time somebody said that. I did a chart, which I sent everybody, and I sent you too, I don't know if you have it, I can give it to you, with all of the modes of all of the songs, including the ones that I have that are not in the show.
Well, the Taylor was called modal.
Oh, no.
Go to a motel. But no, Tom Smith wrote me actually after last class. He said, "What is it that distinguishes a Jewish opera from other words?" And he said, "Is it modalities?" And I said, "No, it's not modalities, but it is modes." And in fact,
I said modals.
you said modals. That's right. And I thought you meant models, but you didn't. So I mean, the very beginning of Fiddler starts in major, but it quickly goes into Phrygian and Phrygish. And you all know what Phrygish is, right? I think it's also called the you do.
Well, I was saying the flat two is part of it, the Ahava Rabbah.
Say it again?
Ahava Rabbah.
Ahava Rabbah is what it's called.
Right, that's what you just, yeah.
Right. It's actually the Phrygian with a raised third. It can also be called the harmonic minor starting on the dominant as the tonic, right? That's all the same key, and it's the Phrygish. Now so the matchmaker also starts in major, but quickly goes into minor and becomes melodic minor. Now, if I were a rich man, if you look at this chart, there are more modes in that song than in any of the others. It starts in a kind of a mixolydian with the major with the flat seventh. And then it becomes chromatic, it goes into natural minor, there's major Phrygian and Phrygish. One of the modes that before I say anything else, everybody's here now. I've introduced you to Sheldon Harnick. I want to introduce you also to Professor Joel Mandelbaum, who is on the board of the American Society for Jewish Music, and whom I've known even longer than I've known Sheldon, and we've done many conferences together. Last week I gave you guys a lecture on Siegmeister, Glitzstein, Malamud, and I didn't give you something that I want to give you now, because these two gentlemen, more than anyone else in the world, made this possible. They've both been very, very loyal and wonderful supporters of the Eli Siegmeister Society, and they helped make this recording, and I want each of you to have a copy of it. Okay. So now let's get back to the modes of Fiddler. Yes, I wanted to ask Joel about this, because there's a mode that occurs in a few places that I've never heard before, which is has the raised fourth of the Lydian.
I mean, if you're going to have me sing, I'd happily stand. You're lecturing, I feel like I should just sit down.
Sure.
If you would like me back up, I will happily come back up.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's great. Okay, so it has the raised fourth of the Lydian, the major third of the major, the raised fourth of the Lydian, and the lower seventh of the mixolydian. That's in a few of the dances. Joel, here, and the rumor. Particularly, it's a mixed Lydian and Dorian. And so Joel, what is that scale?
I've used it occasionally, and I noted that in his big work that was performed a few years ago in Carnegie Hall, Balcom used it in his work on Blake very extensively and very obviously, where he wanted you to hear the raised fourth and hear the flat seventh a lot. What I often find in it, for me, I have spent a lot of time with microtones, and what the raised fourth and the flat seventh are notes that come in the overtone series of the tonic. The seventh partial is a slightly flat B flat over C, and the 11th partial falls halfway between the F and the F sharp, but sounds more like an F sharp than an F, simply because F sharp accepts more distortion than F does if you start at C. If I write a piece for totally open horn, that's the scale I'm going to get. And it's a nice scale, and it's, in some ways, it's more in nature than either the major or minor scale because it does just run up the
So
overtone
you
series.
were proposing when we talked yesterday that it would be called a double mixolydian or something?
Well,
like that?
a double mixture is kind of, is something that, the Schenkerians used to analyze a certain type of chord, so I thought double mixolydian. Yeah.
Okay. Did Jerry talk to you about the modes as he was writing
Never.
these pieces?
No.
They just came.
Yeah, I don't even think he knew what they were. No, he was more concerned about writing original music. I once pointed out to him something that he wrote sounded like, "I've been working on the railroad." And he said, "I depend on other people to tell me when something resembles something else. Because if I had to think of every note I'm writing, is this original? I couldn't write." So he said, "I just have to write, and if God forbid I write something that somebody else has written, somebody will point it out and I'll change it." Yeah.
Right. And did that
He
happen?
probably knew about the modes, but we never spoke about them. We spoke about keys a lot, especially me, because he was putting things in keys I couldn't sing in. Because he was a tenor, and I'm a baritone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were talking about the fact that there's this marvelous recording that is in the NYU library. I just took it out, but you can take it out also. Where this was actually made in February of 1971 at the 92nd Street Y, and it was issued.
Much younger.
And it was issued on CD in 1994, and it has Sheldon singing a lot of his works, including two of the pieces that. Well, there are three pieces that were left out of Fiddler. Well, actually, no, but before we go into that, I want to ask you a couple of things. We've never missed a Sabbath yet.
Yeah.
I've never heard that song, but it's described in this book as having an augmented fifth in the middle of it, which is exactly what Sunrise Sunset has. Is that a coincidence, or was it, did one?
It's something
generally
that Jerry probably liked. Before Jerome Robbins got involved with the show, we were not thinking in terms of the changing of tradition. We were just thinking of the story as Sholem Aleichem told it. And so we wrote an opening number for Golda and the five daughters. They're preparing for the Sabbath. They're just working very hard, trying to, as there's one line in it saying, keeping one eye on the soup and one eye on the sun. And so it's called We've Never Missed a Sabbath Yet. And it's a wonderful number. By the way, there is a newly released, it's a 2 CD package. It's called Sheldon Harnick Hidden Treasures. I urge you all to get it. And most of it is songs that Jerry and I did from our demo records, including that one. Then there are about half a dozen by other people. But it's the songs that were cut, generally the songs that were never used. When the musicologist produced it, they said they wanted to use Sunrise Sunset. I said, well, that's not a hidden treasure. They said it is with you and Jerry doing it.
Yeah.
So, but at any rate, We've Never Missed a Sabbath Yet is a wonderful number. But when Jerry Robbins became our director, we had a lot of meetings. We were starting about 6 months before we went into rehearsal, and each meeting began the same way, where he would say, what is this show about?
No.
And so we would answer, well, it's about this dairyman, Tevye, and his marriageable daughters. He said, no, that's the plot. That's not what gives these stories their power. And what is that? And finally, after weeks of his asking the question, somebody said, hey, you know what the show is about? It's about the changing of a way of life. As the Enlightenment made its way from Western Europe into Eastern Europe, traditions began to change. And Robbins became very excited. So he said, in that case, you've got to write an opening number which shows the audience, which talks about tradition, and shows them, tells them some of these traditions that are going to change or not change. So we dropped, I Never Missed a Sabbath Yet, we got tradition.
Tradition.
Yeah.
We had such a funny experience in Germany with the tradition, because the way Jerry said it is tradition,
Yeah.
tradition. The Germans could never get that. It was always Tradition, Tradition. kept trying to get them to say, no way.
That's, so it's so true, because if you think about the numbers in Fiddler, they all really do have something to do with tradition, one
Every
or
scene,
another
yes.
tradition.
Yeah,
It's
it's all-
fabulous.
Well, he tried to do that. He
Yeah,
tried, I
yeah.
don't know whether it was consistent throughout, but he